Welcome to Is Franchising Right for You? With your host, Rick Morgin. Through each episode, we'll demystify preconceived notions about franchising, both entrepreneurs franchising and those buying a franchise. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Now here's the host of Is Franchising Right for You? Rick Morgin.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, observers, listeners. So today is a solo day. We actually had a guest rescheduled from today to next week, the 12th. So I just thought I'd talk to you about things that are important for you to know when you decide to buy a franchise or investigate buying a franchise. So there a lot of them are common sense. You don't need to take a bunch of notes or write things down. Of course, this episode will be available on all of the podcast channels. First thing, there are almost give or take 4,000 franchise brands in the United States alone. How do you figure out what's the right one for you? Well, if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this podcast is work with a consultant, work with an expert, interview a few, find someone you can trust to guide you through, and be neutral and matchmake. Get to know you, get to know what you're trying to do, how this is going to fit into your life, your budget, your skills, and work backwards. Take those and match it to the right industry and the right franchise. Now, there are going to be several, so that consultant should be willing to show you different industries and different business models within those industries, because there's going to be more than one franchise and industry that's going to fit where you're trying to go. Where's life going to take you 5 years from now? What does that look like? And the vehicle to get you there. Now, selfishly, of course, I want you to work with me. But find somebody you can trust and work with a consultant. That's how you get that 4,000 down to one or two that you really want to dig into and see if that vision is a path to your goals. Understand if you're going to like the franchise company, want to work with them, want to be part of them, going to be supported after and be successful. So find a consultant that will take you through the steps and work with you from beginning to end. Get to know you, that matchmaking, introduce you to the franchise companies, work with you, coach you through that diligent process, get you to understand finance and the legal aspects. We'll cover the finance and legal a little bit later. And even experience a half a day or a day in the business. Those are the different steps that you can take from beginning to end. And so let's say you find a consultant you trust, or you think you trust, And let's say that consultant wants you to pay them a retainer. Well, if that ever happens, run towards the hills, because that is not a trustworthy consultant. Because in our industry, we get paid the same way a real estate broker. In a sense, I'm a real estate broker for franchises. So I work on your behalf, 100% for you. And only if and when you move forward and do something, will that franchise company pay me my fees. Then remember, I've worked on your behalf. So there's no a bias towards any franchise. I'm an unbiased consultant. I think another tip is that you really want to over communicate. And what I mean by over communicate is there's a cadence to working through the journey of investigating franchising. So you'll be asked to set an appointment for the following week, for 2 weeks, or whenever it might be. And everybody knows, whether it's me or the franchise developer, that life happens. And So you set an appointment for the Tuesday of next week at a certain time, and it's Thursday. Something comes up, something with your child's school, an emergency trip, a conflict due to other scheduling with your spouse or partner. Things happen. Just let people know. Let me know, and I can tell the franchise company, and we can work to reschedule. So that is over communicate. Don't let the opportunity to let people know that the schedule has to change. That's fine. And it's another way to over communicate is be expressive. When we work together, I want to know what you're feeling, what you learned. What did we learn from step to step? That's going to lead you to whether you're going to make a decision, either yes or no. So over communicate. One question I always receive is, how can I finance? Is financing available? And of course, I refer my candidates to professionals within that field of franchise financing. But it really comes after, well, one, we got to narrow it down, because you got to have to give the finance company a scope of what you're trying to fund. And once they know that and understand your resources, then they can lay out options for you to finance. And there are different loan programs, of course, SBA loan, different forms of that SBA loan, term loans, equipment loans, equipment leasing programs. And if you have self-directed retirement assets, something you may want to explore and learn more about from the referral I make. And that is, the acronym is ROBS, ROBS. It's part of the IRS code. It's been there for decades. And it's ROBS is short for Rollover for Business Startups. And that's where you can utilize self-directed retirement assets and roll it over from one entity to your company. And then that comes without penalty, without tax, and it's not a loan. So by completing that ROBS, the rollover for business startup, you can move self-directed retirement assets into your company. And there's other issues and other things you need to do to complete that. But it's, again, no penalty, no tax. It's not a loan. It's available for you to use towards anything for your business. Another tip, I think this is common sense. When I have a consult, the very last question I ask is, are you willing to work a process by having live conversations with franchise companies and their franchise owners? By having these live conversations, that will lead you to obtaining more information that you can ever obtain from just the internet. Are you willing to do that? And everybody says yes. But talking to franchise owners as you're investigating a franchise is critical. If we have vetted semi-absentee ownership models, why not talk to somebody or several people who have been in business 1 year or less to find out if it's truly semi-absentee, that they can mix the time required to scale the business with their life and their job. If you talk to half a dozen franchisees that have been open a year and they're telling you that it's been difficult to balance, well, that's a red flag. And maybe we just move that franchise aside and find the one that is truly semi-absentee, that has a pattern of green flags. Talk to franchise owners who have been in business for 3 years and 5 years. What has their trajectory been like? How has it changed their life? Are they producing the financial goals that they set for themselves? How they've been supported, that's key. Is there ongoing training, ongoing communication? Is there a peer group of franchise owners? Are there annual or biannual conferences that the whole group gets together and gets to know each other so that you have this peer group of franchise owners that you can bounce ideas off and communicate and problem solve and mastermind? Those are the elements of those type of conversations with franchise owners that are critical, and you must have those. Um, I really suggest that you don't let any preconceived notion about just when you obtain information through a presentation or internet search guide you. Have those live conversations. Ask any question, however difficult it may be, to the franchise company. Take the stance that there are no silly questions. Get to know your franchise owners, interview them 1 year in business, 3 years in business, 5 years in business, and we went over why. But that is, I think, the most important step, because now you get this visual picture that, hey, if they've done it and they're successful, I fit in. I can do that. I can get there. I might even be able to get there in a shorter period of time and pay back my whole investment a year ahead. Those are the type of things you obtain in that your research portion of speaking with franchisees. Towards the end of this discovery process, this journey of figuring out if the franchise model is right for you, is really understanding what you're getting into from a legal standpoint. You're going to be asked to sign a franchise agreement. I have to preface that even if you are awarded the franchise, you're still in control, and if you're not feeling it, of course, you're not going to sign. But understand the legal aspects of getting into your franchise. And again, I make referrals to the country's best experts in this, so that they will, for flat fees, they work on flat fees in our industry, and they will do a thorough examination of the franchise disclosure document and the franchise agreement, and then work on your behalf to negotiate as much as possible. There are some things that certainly aren't negotiable, and really those are things like the franchise fee and the royalty, but other elements of that franchise agreement, or franchise contract, you can talk to the lawyer and see if something is reasonable. And if it isn't, if it's a no, then you just have to decide if that's you're comfortable. But understanding your responsibilities in that contract, the franchisor's responsibilities in that contract, your territory, if there are any performance clauses, if there are any guarantees. I want you to be comfortable with that stuff. So I'm happy to make that referral to that expert. Then finally, understand you're in control. You're throughout this whole process. It is a two-way street. I mean, it's a dance, but you're in control. You're never obligated or bound to do anything. It's our roles to make sure there's value in the time you spend, and the franchisor has their cadence and their responsibility to help you discover if their business model is right for you. And it's in steps. There's a cadence to it because there's a lot of detail. It just really isn't fair to you to be absorbed in one or two meetings. You have to have time to thoroughly understand each discipline it takes to run the business, to scale the business, how you're going to be supported, how to understand and penetrate your marketplace, who you have to hire, how to do that, all different types of things. The estimated costs, the item 19, financial performance of the franchisees. It takes time for you to understand and put all those pieces together, and then confirm those pieces are a good fit in that puzzle when you have those conversations with the franchise owners, the franchisees. And then the final confirmation is when you're invited to attend a Discovery Day, and then make a good showing, be yourself, be proud of and confident and communicative, social in that Discovery Day experience, and you're awarded the franchise and you're still in control. Because I would just recommend that, if it's you've got that funny feeling in your stomach, then it's better off just to move it aside and not do it. But if you're pumped, if you're excited and you want to get going and this is for you, well, then congratulations. You're on your way to independence, building wealth, entrepreneurship, freedom. Understand that every minute you spend and every dollar you make is for yourself and your team and your family. So those are the tips. I guess there were 7 of them. Work with a consultant. Services are free in this industry. We get paid by the franchise company only if and when you move forward. Over communicate. Financing is available. We refer you to those experts. Make sure you have conversations, live conversations with franchisors and their franchisees. Understand the legal aspects of what you're getting into, and you are in control. Those are the points that I wanted to express about what you should know and follow when you're looking into buying a franchise, investing in a franchise. Thank you. Contact me if we want to have that conversation.
You've been tuning into Is Franchising Right for You? With your host, Rick Morgin. You can find more episodes on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.